you doing, folks? Mitch from Hard Intentions. We also have hardintentions.com, as a lot of you know, that where you can buy T-shirts, and as you can see off to this side are tubs of our massive warehouse of shirts, which is, that's say that facetiously, it's jokingly. We do have shirts available. We have some art prints available. I'm working on other merchandise. And you can check out our website. That's hardintentions.com, and check out some of our other stuff. You know, I was reading a post today, which kind of made me think about where I'm at, and with this YouTube and with my T-shirt business, my art, and actually my job. I want to give you a little progression because this guy posted something today that really hit home with me. You know, I started a T-shirt business. The wife told me, "Hey, quit that job." I had a bullshit job that was working me to death for a small amount of money per hour wage, and so I was tired all the time, frustrated. And she said, "Look, I want you to focus on selling T-shirts and art, and fuck that job." So I did. I quit the job for other reasons as well. You know, my mom was kind of had issues, so I started selling T-shirts, and I'd sell a few T-shirts here and there, and then I started reaching out to people, and I reached out to somebody on Instagram, the Pope of Welding, who's a very well-known metal fabricator, and I said, "Hey, look, you know, I need a little help here, you know, basically." I said, "Look, I did 38 years in prison, and you know, I got a T-shirt company. Selling T-shirts is a bitch. It's real slow going." I asked him if he needed any designs for his shirt business. You know, he sells shirts as well, even though he's a metal fabricator. And you know, lo and behold, man, the guy, you know, took notice of my message, and you can go to the Pope of Welding and check out the message. He reposted my message, and he posted a great big response also to it, and he told people, "Hey, go check this guy out," and that led to us selling quite a few shirts, and which led to us upping our shirts, and it led to somebody, you know, my Instagram blew up because of that, and somebody suggested I reach out to Death I Bring on Lockdown 23 and 1. I did the interview with him, which led to more T-shirt sales and art sales, and it also led to me creating my own YouTube channel. And also, my current boss started, you know, he saw me on there, and I saw him on Instagram, and I communicated with him. He communicated back, and next thing you know, I got a job. So, and you know, now we have over 10,000 subscribers on our YouTube channel, which I want to thank each and every one of you for. And you know, my T-shirt business doesn't do a massive amount of sales, but it does a good amount of business. You know, we get a few orders each week, which is great, man. I mean, it's not overwhelming, and it's not bad. It's just pretty good. So I also want to thank each and every one of you who buy our merchandise, T-shirts and masks and all the other stuff that we've sold. And so by reaching out to this guy, the Pope of Welding, check him out on Instagram, and his response, it led to my T-shirt business going, my Instagram blowing up, my getting a YouTube channel, and to a job, which allows me to help support the family, you know, myself and my wife, and you know, my hobbies and whatever. It's just great to have a job, right? So that one bit of help that this guy gave me, I responded to him tonight. I said, you know, you taught me how to fish, because the saying in the Bible, right? You give a guy a fish, he eats for a day. You teach him how to fish, and he eats forever, right? So, you know, he helped me out quite a bit, and I'm eternally grateful for that, because this guy is like just a phenomenal metal fabricator. Has several TV shows. His business is coming out the, you know what, man of his own, and he's a busy man, and he's famous, and he didn't have to do that for me. So I'm eternally grateful to this guy, Jesse James. So, but he posted something tonight and basically said that, the bottom feeders of the world, they show who they are. That, when you help people, you genuinely care for them and love them, and then they bite you in the ass no matter what it is. And, you can read his post if you go to his site. But he mentioned something that he gives them a mental funeral. So basically, he buries them, kills them in his mind, and buries them in his mind, and and then he moves on. And in prison, which I spent 38 years of my life in prison, so most of my life experiences are from prison. And I had people fuck me over in prison. It happens all the time. In 38-year time period, I mean from day one, people that are very close to me, some of them fuck me over, So um, unexpectedly, as a young guy, I was kind of shocked that some people that were close to me would do me dirty, And I learned quick, like, hey, that old saying, trust no man, and all that kind of stuff. You learn that those things really do have meaning. And uh, when it first happens to you, when you get screwed over by somebody that you trust or you love, it hurts your feelings, man. It hurts you, and it makes you think bad shit. And as an adult, about a third of the way through my term, I started doing. This is why it hit home with me what he said. I started doing that. I started having mental funerals for people, kind of what he said. Actually, I just treated people like they were ghosts. If you can imagine being on a yard with 1,000 people in a very small facility that was designed for 500 people, um, when somebody fucked me around, I would just act like they were a ghost. I would walk by them on the track and I wouldn't even acknowledge them. And if you don't acknowledge somebody in prison, that's a terrible thing to do because um, then your homeboys take notice. Hey, how come Smiley's not talking to that guy? And then someone asked me, what about that guy? I said, man, fuck that guy. And it could be a small thing or it could be a big thing. Some people, I would give them a small responsibility and they would fuck me on it. And I'd be like, yeah, that's why I gave them a small reign, And some people you develop trust with, man. And then they sting me after developing a trust and a concern and love for them. They would do you dirty. And no one else would know about it, just that person and I. And I would be like, all right. And then people would take notice, like, how come all of a sudden these two guys aren't talking to each other? And then I would sit back and just do my thing and see if that person had something bad to say about you. Because if people talk bad about you in prison, it comes back around. You will hear about it. And so my point being is that when and I'm not saying I'm some great guy that did great stuff for people. What I'm saying is that when in prison, it's very rare that you develop a trusting relationship with a homeboy or a friend, no matter where they're from. It's a rare thing. And so when you do, and then it comes back to bite you in the ass, it's hard. And you can say all the man stuff you want to say. It hurts your feelings, dude. So it's an insult on your judgment because you trusted that person and you let them into your inner circle. So when that happens to me, and when that happened to me in there, um, I would almost always like cut that person out of my program, and so they might be a good dude on the yard, and maybe it's not a killing offense, so I would never say anything about it. But I would just cut that person off. I would act like they don't exist. And if I was on the yard with fellas standing around kicking it or working out or playing handball, and that person was around, I would just act like they're just somebody I didn't know, and I would cut them out of my life. And as this guy said, as Jesse said, you give them a mental funeral. And I can't think of any better way to describe it. I would just cut them out. And on the very few occasions where I would let that person back into my program, even just, I always regretted it. I always thought, man, you know what? I should have trusted my gut instinct and kept that person outside of my circle. Just treat them like you don't know them, and treat them like they're a ghost. And so that's how I am. And if I meet people, in prison, you have to make a judgment call fast. A lot of people out here say, "Oh man, you judge that guy too harshly," or they'll be like, "Damn, Mitch, why are you think like that about that person or something?" And I'll say, "Well, that dude's no good, or she's no good, or he's no good." And then, well, how can you say that? You don't even know him. And I'll give you an example. A friend of the wife's met a guy. He got out of prison, and I met the guy at the swap meet. This friend of my wife's came to the swap meet, the motorcycle swap meet, and brought this dude with her. And I was there with a friend of mine, and this guy sat down with the wife's friend, spoke for about 3 minutes, and I said, "Yeah, nice to meet you." And I told my partner, I said, "Hey, Doug, let's go check out some motorcycle parts." And I got up and walked away, and I told my friend Doug, I go, "Hey, that guy's a piece of shit." And sure enough, and the wife was like, "Well, maybe, she wasn't digging on the guy, but I said, hey, man, the dude's no fucking good. And he's going to fuck her around, make her life miserable, whatever." And this chick had like 20, 25 years clean time at NA and all that kind of stuff. And so a few months later, the wife was like, "Hey, man, let's go down and see these people." And we went down and spent the night, barbecued, all that. And sure enough, man, all the shit came out of this dude. And the wife was like, you're right. And she didn't say, I hate to say it, she just acknowledged, "Yeah, you were right." Because she wasn't really digging on the guy anyway. But my point being, you learn how to make judgment calls on people. I do. And 90% of the time they're accurate. And in those cases, I don't let them anywhere near even my outer circle. I don't want nothing to do with them. And once I get a feeling like that about somebody, I see just a small thing in their character. If you see something really small in their character, it's probably like a small crack that leads into a big cavern. There's usually something major on the other side of that. And to me, it's like they're not containing their facade. They're not maintaining their facade good enough to keep me from seeing what's going on. And a lot of people don't see that small crack in the facade. They just see the image that person puts out front for you to see. And so, a lot of people have the facade, man, and behind the facade, you got to learn to see. To me, I had to learn how to see that what's on the inner workings of that person, not just what's on in the face of things, and it's got me through a lot of shit in life. And I'm telling you, man, it's a hard thing. You got to do that hard. I have to do that hard because life's too short, man, to waste it with bullshit people that will stab you in the fucking back as soon as you give them an opportunity. In prison, a lot of guys are like this. You let them in, right, and then they reach a point where they feel like it's worth uh, uh, doing you dirty. That there's a gain. The gain for doing you dirty is worth them making that move. So you just can't. I just don't let people get to that point with me. And once I make that decision, it's like Jesse said, it's a mental funeral. That's what I do. And like I said, every time I've changed my mind, I let that person back in. 90% of the time, I regret it. Very seldom does a person get back in your good graces after you've made a judgment call on them and be worth your, 90% of the time it's bad. You don't want to let that person back into your program once you've made that decision. At least that's with me. So, be careful. My message with that is to just be careful who you associate with. When you go to the joint, if you go to the joint, just be careful who you associate with, because that guy smiling in your face might have a big ass knife in his back pocket to stick in your back the first time it's convenient for him to do that. Do that hard, for real. Do that hard. You make that judgment call and you stick to it. And a lot of times your gut feeling is what you got to go by. So that's for real shit. You hear people talk about that. I mean, I've seen guys get killed because they decided to hang out with somebody that they didn't really understand was a piece of shit. And the next thing you know, they couldn't stab that guy, so they stabbed his friend who decided to hang out with him. Or he was there when they went to move on that person, they moved on him too. If guys think that you're 100% running around with this person, you're solid with them, when they go to move on them, they're going to move on you too. So, I mean, your decisions on who your friends are and who you associate with, especially in prison, can be detrimental or beneficial. So, I would just highly recommend it to look for the cracks in the facade and then look inside that crack, into the cavern. And if you're comfortable with what you see, cool. And if not, just turn them into a ghost. There you go. Thank you for tuning in. Do it hard. Whatever it is you do that hard. Thank you, folks. Have a good day.